Okay, hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters. Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 4 is finally here, and this season so far, it's been pretty good. Anyways, just like always, if you do have a myth you would like me to test in the next or future episodes of the Fortnite Mythbusters, make sure to go down in the comments and drop a comment of that myth for a pretty good chance to be featured. Also, if you guys are new around here and you do enjoy my content, feel free to consider subscribing and turning on those post notifications. Only 70% of my viewers are actually subscribed. Also, let's see if we can smash 21,494 likes on today's episode. That would be insane. And lastly, if you want to pick up some limited edition Nexiph merch, make sure to go down to the first link in the description or the pinned comment to get some merch. Once we sell out, we're never coming back with this design, so make sure to get some while you can. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right on in to today's episode. Kicking things off, jumping straight into the first myth. The first myth is, if you eat a hop flopper and then use Silver Surfer's board, will you launch and fly higher than normal, or will the hop flopper have no effect? So in Fortnite, they added in like 37 brand new fish into the game, and a whole ton of them have their own abilities. There's like a thermal fish where you can see players a lot easier, and there's this hop flopper which basically gives you the anti-gravity effect, you know, from the gravity rocks that used to be back in Fortnite Chapter 1. Silver Surfer's board is one of the mythical weapons that you could actually get in the season, and whenever you use it, it launches your player up into the air, and you basically redeploy a glider, but it's kind of like a surfboard. So a lot of people are wondering if the anti-gravity effect from the hop rock will actually, you know, launch you up higher than normal on that initial boost. Now, when I tried this out in game, it was actually very difficult to find this flopper, but after multiple tries, I finally found it. I then got the surfboard, you know, the Silver Surfer's board, and launched myself up to compare them both side by side, and it seemed that the hop rock actually does launch you up not too much higher, but you know, it's a decent amount. Going into the next myth is, do Stark robots take fall damage? Now, Stark robots are basically the robots that are around these, you know, these jets that land on the map at the very beginning of a game when you're coming in from you know, the battle bus. The cool thing about these robots is actually, if you knock them, you could revive them, and you quote unquote hack them, and you could have up to 3 of these robots to be on your own team, and they will attack players, the other robots around. Basically, it's like 3 free teammates. When doing this myth, I basically knocked a few of these robots, I hacked them, and then I went over to, you know, the massive waterfall in the direct center of the map, and underneath the bridge, I blocked off all of the water. That way, none of the robots could actually land in the water. I then made my way all the way up to the top of the bridge, where I then kind of baited them and broke the floor beneath them, making them fall all the way to their death, surprisingly. I can see why this is possible, because we actually tried to myth out a long time ago to see if henchmen were to take damage, and they also took fall damage as well. Going into the next myth, and a pretty highly requested myth. This myth is, what happens when you impulse a car? Now, around the map, there's not impulse grenades, but there's shockwave grenades, which are a lot more powerful than the impulse grenades. You just have the anti-gravity effect, so you don't take any fall damage. The shockwave grenades are actually very common around the map, as well as cars. The cars are now in arena, as well as the casual game modes, battle labs, so most likely every single game you'll see someone driving a car, and you might have some of these shockwave grenades handy. What's actually interesting is that if a player is not inside of the car and you throw the shockwave grenade right next to it, the car will not move. It's literally just like a stationary object. It's like a wall is there. But if there's a player in the car, or even yourself in the car, and a shockwave grenade hits you, no matter what, if it's friendly or an enemy shockwave grenade, it will absolutely launch the car extremely far. But luckily, while you're in the car, you don't take any fall damage, so you don't got to worry about that. Going into the next myth, is, do you take fall damage while you're using Groot's ball? So just like the surfboard that we were you know, using earlier, the Groot's ball is actually another mythical item that you could get, and basically whenever you use it, you turn basically into a baller. If you guys remember those from like season 6, season 7, I'm actually pretty surprised those haven't came back into the game ever since. To do this myth, I basically built a massive tower up into the sky. I then was at the very top of it, where I then jumped off the tower, landed on the ground, surprisingly taking no fall damage whatsoever. I decided maybe, like, you know, maybe the jump gave me an immune sort of thing, so I don't take any fall damage from it. So I went all the way back up there, and this time, instead of jumping off of the platform, I rolled off of it, and I still took no fall damage. So if you're in the baller, you won't take any fall damage, which is something good to know. It's definitely a good backup for, like, if you're doing a sky base or something. Might be the new strat. But be careful, because if you are falling from the sky and someone sees you, they definitely could shoot the ball out, and from there you are going to take fall damage. Going into the next myth is what happens when you boogie bomb an enemy Stark robot? Will the robot dance or not be affected at all? Now, I'm actually so hyped that boogie bombs are back in the game because I've gotten so many myths and so many requests to do stuff with boogie bombs for, you know, like henchmen, these Stark robots, even sharks, which we will get into later in today's video. When I tried this myth out, I knocked a few of these Stark robots. I also went up to one who was an enemy to me. He was shooting at me. I threw the boogie bomb, and surprisingly, the boogie bomb had a perfectly normal effect on the Stark robot. The disco ball was above his head. He was doing the exact same dance that the boogie bomb usually does to players, and he was not able to shoot me. Keep in mind, this applies to both a regular player as well as a Stark robot, but whenever you're boogie bombed or you boogie bomb a player, the effect of the boogie bomb will last up to about 10 seconds, I believe it is, or its normal time, or if you take fall damage or even any damage whatsoever. This is definitely good to know because it will catch a lot of people off guard that you are able to shoot immediately after taking a little bit of damage, so it's a good way to get the, you know, disco effect off of you. Going into another Stark robot myth, this myth is what happens when the shark attacks a Stark robot. To do this myth, it was actually pretty difficult to get Stark robots next to sharks because let alone sharks are pretty hard to find, in my opinion. I swear they're a lot more uncommon than they were last season. I think that's just because maybe like less water. I don't really know. Very similar to the Marauders as well as the henchmen. Whenever the Stark robots see a shark, all of them will team up and they will shoot the shark until the shark fully dies. The shark will even attack them. They basically just shift all of their focus to the shark, which is pretty cool to see them team up on an enemy, which is the shark, obviously. But definitely something good to know when they are attacking. If you are lucky enough for them not to lock onto you, you can definitely sneak by them and get some loot and then get out of there without having to worry about a fight. Going into another myth, this myth actually consists of Groot's ball. Once again, this myth is what happens when you go into the water while you're inside of Groot's ball. Will you float? Will you sink? What exactly happened? Now, this is actually very good because we can't compare Groot's ball to the baller because when the ballers were in the game, there wasn't the super deep water. If you guys remember, there was only that, I guess, knee-deep water back in chapter 1. When you actually ride Groot's ball into the water, the ball will actually float, but the moment that you jump out of it by using spacebar or whatever button it is for you to jump, as soon as you hit the water, once again, the ball will actually disappear and it cuts your ride time short. This is actually very strange because you're able to float in the water, but as soon as you jump and land back in the water once again, your ball goes away immediately, which really doesn't make sense. So just something for you to keep in mind just in case you ever do use Groot's baller and you are going through water, even though I don't recommend it because it's a lot slower than normal. Going into another Stark robot myth, so many of these today. This myth is what happens when you hack a Stark robot then die. Will the Stark robots continue living? Will they continue shooting? What exactly happens? Like I said before, you could only have a max of 3 Stark robots. If you revive the 4th Stark robot, one random one from the group will end up dying, and you only can have a max of 3 to make things more simple. When I tried this myth out, I actually had 3 Stark robots and they were fighting one enemy robot altogether, so they were active, they were just chilling. I then built a massive tower up where I then died to fall damage literally right next to another Stark robot, and he just died immediately. And I assume all of the other Stark robots died as well because when I went into replay mode, all of them died. They basically act the exact same way as decoy grenades from last season. I mean, it really makes sense because even if you die in a game and a trap gets a kill after you're already dead, it won't add on to your stats. Your KD won't bump up a little bit because once you die in the game, it's final. Going into the next myth, and a myth I've been wanting to do for a very long time. This myth is what happens when you boogie bomb a shark. Now, I've been wanting to complete this myth ever since sharks were added into the game because, I mean, boogie bombing a shark, sharks aren't like regular players. They can't just dance, or at least we thought until now. Maybe you'll see. Believe it or not, this was actually one of my first games into Fortnite, and I picked up a boogie bomb. I then drove around the entire map looking for a shark, and it took me forever to find the shark. You know how earlier I mentioned like they're way more rare? Yeah, this was like literally the only one on the map. I then threw the boogie bomb directly at the shark where surprisingly the shark was on land and he froze. There was a disco ball above his head. The shark was not able to move until the boogie bomb effect was fully gone. You could tell it was gone because the disco ball was removed from above it, and then it continued to go back into the water. Now knowing this is definitely a very good way if a shark is attacking you and you need to get away or just to stall it for a good couple of seconds. Anyways, that wraps it up for today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn on those post notifications to never miss another Fortnite Mythbusters episode, and I will see you guys next time.